when you dish out information only content and you think you're winning because you did it in 12 seconds by pushing a button in ChatGPT. I didn't even have to work to make the post. All you're doing is throwing another needle on this giant ever-growing haystack of sameness.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how do you stand out? How do you become the one where the prospect says, you get me? Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about.
Welcome to You Are Buzzworthy. Do you believe that marketing and sales is just a numbers game? That if you make enough calls, shake enough hands, and send enough emails, the sales will come? Well, you might not be alone, but unfortunately, not right. Yes, marketing and sales are driven and measured by numbers, but they are most certainly not solely made by numbers. This has been driven into the spotlight by many great marketing minds like Donald Miller, Eugene Schwartz, and the like, with iconic books like Story Brand and Breakthrough Advertising. To these thought leaders, marketing and advertising are driven by story, and I happen to agree with them 100%. But what is the story behind storytelling in marketing? And how can we utilize this age-old pastime to drive better results? Well, that's what we're going to uncover today. And to help me unravel this mystery is Tom Ruwitch, a storyteller, business growth catalyst, and content marketing pioneer. In 2001, Tom founded the email marketing software and services company Marketvolt. This was before most businesses even heard of email marketing. He sold Marketvolt in 2019 and founded Story Power Marketing. Today, he works with coaches, authors, and other experts to power up their stories to increase the effectiveness of their marketing and sales efforts. And he is joining me today to share some of his secrets. Welcome to the show there, Tom. How are you today?
Hello, Buzz. I am very happy to be here. I'm feeling good, ready to go.
I'm telling you right now, it's funny. I just got my new setup fixed. Apparently, Windows 11 wanted to crash my entire interview system here. So I'm so happy to be back in my room, looking you face to face here so I can actually look at the camera and see you and your pretty face as well. So
it's super funny you say that, Buzz. I have to tell you a quick story. I was at a hockey game last night. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. Big fan of the St. Louis Blues. I went to the game last night, and they have this thing on the board where they do look-alike people. And one of the people they were doing a look-alike of was Bill Gates. And when Bill Gates's picture went up on the board, a bunch of people in the arena booed. And you know, I'm not going to get into sort of the politics of what's going on, why people are upset with Bill Gates. But I turned to my friend. I'm like, wow, a bunch of people just booed Bill Gates. And he turned to me and he said, well, have you tried Windows 11? And I said, yeah, I said, which was so funny. And I said, I don't think that's why they're booing, but I could see why you might boo Bill Gates as a result. So we're already completely off the rails, Buzz, but I had to share that story.
Well, welcome to the You Are Buzzworthy podcast, where I try to make sense of everything, and then my ADHD gets the best of everybody.
There it is.
We are going to talk about storytelling, and you just started it with a story, which is great because you told us so much about a company that people think they know, but are not keeping up with it. Right?
Yeah.
I started having PTSD from Windows 2000 because that was a really dark time in my Windows experience. I think that's about when I went to Apple for a while.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that it dovetails into what we're talking about today, which is storytelling. And the fact that there's so many business owners out there who have a story, and for some reason, they want to bottle it up because they don't think anybody cares.
Yep.
But you and me agree, along with a lot of other people, that your story is your competitive advantage when it comes to marketing and sales.
Yeah.
Right? And, I've been telling this for a long time. And anybody who's heard me talk about it, I immediately talk about the story of the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And in marketing, we find what is their story, what is their protagonist in their story, and how can we help them be the hero in overcoming that villain. Right.
Sure.
You come and say that story, you can be that hero of your own story to help other heroes be a hero in their story. Right.
Yeah.
And so many people don't think they have that interesting story to tell. So how do you help people realize that their story is actually an awesome novel to market against?
There's a whole lot in that question that I'd like to address. Number one, no, that's great. Number one is you've talked about story. I like to talk about stories, plural. So when we talk about storytelling for business, we're not talking about a single thing, about a single tale. We're talking about a mindset. We're talking about a process. We're talking about a practice. So it's about weaving stories in. You also said something else. You talked about the consumer or the prospect or the client, the person that you're serving. And that is where you need to put the focus. So when we talk about storytelling, when I hear from my own clients or prospects who say, I don't have an interesting story to tell, I say, don't worry about that just yet. You do. You have an interesting story to tell. You have many interesting stories to tell, but take the focus off yourself. Don't worry about digging into your own history and trying to figure out your legendary origin story. Let's just focus first on the prospect, the client, the person you wish to serve.
Right.
And at Story Power, we teach what we call the 3E method of storytelling. 3 E's to focus on. Number 1, empathize. Number 2, envision. Number 3, enable. I'll break that down. Empathize. Put yourself in the prospect's shoes. What are they feeling? What are they going through? What's keeping them up at night? What's pissing them off? Number 2, envision. Where do they want to go? What's on the other side of the mountain? Sometimes they know. Sometimes you have to paint the picture for them. Most times it's a combination of those two things. And if you can do that properly, empathize and envision, what you've done is you've painted a picture of a journey. You've spun a story of a journey from before to after. And no matter what business you are in, whether you're a business to consumer business, a business to business business, a nonprofit, you are selling the journey. Business to consumer, great story, ad that I love is for, I think it's Extra Chewing Gum. It's a kid in Washington Square Park in New York City, young kid playing chess with the old guy at one of those outdoor city chess boards, and they're playing chess, and the kid keeps looking over his shoulder at the cute teenage girls on the bench, and finally the old man stops the game and pushes over a pack of the chewing gum and basically says to the kid, yeah, go on over there. And what is that? What's the story? The story is how the journey from shy and I'm not so sure of myself with the girls to my minty fresh breath, I'm going to go get the girl. The journey from lonely to love, the journey from rejected to accepted, the journey from single to couple. And I could turn this R-rated if I wanted, right? But, let's leave it at that. And what enables the journey? The piece of minty fresh chewing gum. That's a business to consumer example of the 3 E's, a very, very simple story. In business, if we're a coach or a consultant or a professional service provider, what we're selling, let's take a professional service provider, for example, what we're selling is not an annuity or a security or a life insurance policy. What we're selling is going from losing sleep at night, worrying about the future, to feeling secure and confident. The stories we tell are central to how we define our business, because whether we're selling a product to consumers or a service in the business world, we are taking our clients on a journey, and the stories we tell are what they buy.
Right.
You know,
Well,
they
they're buying their story. Like I tell
yeah,
people all the time, like I love the analogy with the B2B. I mean, I deal a lot with B2B businesses,
yeah,
and I consistently have to tell people you got to take the I, we, us out of your website and start working on the you and the your. It's
yes,
their
yes,
story that we're trying to help solve, right? Because they have a
yeah,
problem. They either have a problem or a dream, right? And
yeah,
there's only two things you can do as a service-based business for either consumers or businesses, which is solve a problem or help them attain a dream. So
yeah,
the
or
story
often
is their
both,
journey on that,
in combination.
or
Yeah,
and in combination. Well, I even
yeah,
say, like, if you really want to get the lowest common denominator, the only thing keeping them from their dreams is a problem. They have a block. They have something that's hindering them getting to where they want to be, right? So
right.
really, we're just problem solvers when we're service-based businesses, right?
That's
For
exactly right.
B2C or
Yeah,
B2B, that's a story in itself. The story
yeah,
is behind the problem. And to be
yeah,
able to just describe that story to somebody lets them know that you get them without even knowing them. You're
yep,
so good at what you do. You were able to paint my picture for me, and you haven't even
yep,
met me. Oh,
yeah.
I want to know more. And I
This is
love that stuff.
I love the fact that you put it that way. I talk about that idea all the time, that if you can create content, create stories where the prospect says, wow, you really get me. You know me. Now they're leaning in and they're saying, tell me more, as opposed to you having to be that pitchy pest who's trying to, talk about all your great credentials and share information. Let me give you a great example of this in the coaching and consulting space, because I think it'll really hit home. Another example about an executive coach who came to me saying, hey, I need help with my legendary origin story and I'm really stuck. I said, well, let's put that aside for a second. Let's talk about the stories that let's talk about your clients. Let's talk about your prospects. Before she hired me, she had written a blog post about delegation. It's one of the skills, it's one of the tactics that she teaches: how to flatten your organization, how to bring people up, how to make
Mm-hmm.
your business run better. She teaches that, and it's an important skill. Well, she had written a blog post that went something like this. Delegation is one of the most important skills that any business owner can master. When you delegate properly, your business runs well. When you don't delegate, blah, 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 blah. That's what I call information only content. And the world is full of it. So many experts and coaches and professional service providers, they know a lot. They have a lot of information they wish to share. They
Mm-hmm.
think it's valuable. And so they send out emails, or they post a social, or they put stuff on their blog that's loaded with this same old information only stuff. And here's the problem with that. A, there are already 8 gazillion posts that are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And B, now the Chat GPT powered AI copywriting robots are turning that pile of 8 million posts or emails into 8 trillion, 8 gazillion, whatever. I lost track of all my numbers. But you get the idea.
Oh, I
And
totally do.
when you dish out information only content, and you think you're winning because you did it in 12 seconds by pushing a button in Chat GPT. Oh, I
Mm.
didn't even have to work to make the post. All you're doing is throwing another needle on this giant, ever-growing haystack of sameness.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how do you stand out? How do you become the one where the prospect says, you get me? Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about. So we had a conversation, this executive coach and I, about this, and I began to say, talk to me about delegation. Talk to me about people you've helped delegate. And out of that, we dug up a true story of a business owner who, in 20 years, get this, 20 years of running his business, had never taken a vacation longer than a long weekend. Right?
I
And
remember those days.
right? And why is that? Because when he went away, the phone would ring. Hey, boss, I need your help. Or when he returned, things would, all hell will have broken loose. He'd not enjoy his vacation because he's worried that everything's going to fall apart. And all of that was symptomatic of the fact that he was a top-down boss who had not delegated and not created an organization that could run without him. The whole weight of the world rested on his shoulder. So what happened was an email with the subject line. And remember those 3 E's: empathize, envision, enable.
Right.
The subject line was how a stressed out owner let go and got away. Okay. We're going for, I want my prospects to think, wow, you get me. I see that subject line. I'm the owner who hasn't learned to delegate, who constantly is worried that everything depends on me. It's a drag, and I see that stressed out. Oh, yeah, I am stressed out. Let go. I wish I could let go. I can't. Got away. Whew. That's what I'm going for. That subject line alone is telling a story of a journey. And then in the email, she tells the story. I know a business owner who didn't go on vacation for longer than a long weekend for 20 years. Finally, he figured out a way to do it. And here's why he didn't go away. You worried that this would happen, all hell would break loose, so on and so forth. Finally, he got away, had a vacation of a lifetime. The photo that went with the email was guy on a hammock, sunset, the beach, ocean behind him, and then tells the story. And then the transition in the storytelling is what changed? He learned to delegate. Here are 5 tips on how you can delegate. And if you want to go deeper, contact me. Let's have a call. And those 5 tips, same 5 tips that were in the blah, blah, blah post.
Right.
But now the business owner who's drawn into the story, who's thinking, wow, she gets me. This is exactly what I'm going through. This is what I feel. They're reading the tips. They're realizing that, the tips, the coaching she does, that is the 3rd E. That's the enabling. And oh, by the way, call so that I can do a little more enabling of your dream for you. Now people are reading from the top to the bottom of the email. People are saying, I get you, you get me. Let's talk. And the selling dynamic is completely turned on its head. Now it's a prospect who's saying, tell me more, as opposed to you saying, well, here are all my credentials and here are my initials and here's, I'm going to keep spouting information. It completely changes how we build businesses when we draw people in with stories that resonate with them.
I love it. In marketing, we see it in advertising a lot. Right.
Yeah.
We tell these stories and people say, well, that's what I need to do. I need to create a catchy story that I can then advertise with. And they don't realize that actually these stories were proven through the marketing process. And everything you just told the audience is marketing. And marketing is an inbound, it's a magnet and we have to make sure that our magnet is powerful enough to draw people in split seconds. And so I really like how you spend a lot of time on the title. This is something I've been working on with podcasters lately, is their title means a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And people get gitchy with titles lately, right? They think that it's almost like clickbait, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I got to get something that makes them. And it's like the worst thing you can do is create a title that brings somebody in for one reason, and then you have a bait and switch with it, right? Yeah. And so that congruency is extremely important. I'm going as far as to say, listen, guys, there are people searching very specific questions on, right? And so like taking your story saying, hey, in an email, that's awesome because you're not worried about SEO. But on a blog, you might be worried about SEO. So you could take what you just talked about and one step further and say, the people who are having that situation, what questions were they asking themselves to be interested in this topic?
Yeah.
Those questions are being asked on search engines. Those people who are using search engines to find those answers are looking for solutions that you have to offer. And if you
Yeah.
can carry a story around the exact question they are asking,
Yeah.
how powerful is that story?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you
And
can,
I've done that, and I've taught that, Buzz, that you can go straight to the keyword searches
Mhm,
and understanding what the most popular keywords are. You can go to industry forums, Reddit, and so
mhm,
forth, and see what are the hot topics. And
mhm.
I'll write emails for myself or on behalf of clients where it's saw this question, or it could even be, hey, I was checking out doing some keyword research, and this question popped up as a really important one. Here's the question, reminds me of the time da 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 da,
Exactly.
and
And it
I'm
goes right
answering the
into a story,
question.
right?
Right.
So I feel like we've given people an idea of what storytelling looks like, right?
Sure.
But
Yep.
most of us are not storytellers.
Yeah.
So can we give the listeners a couple of tips to get started this week
Yeah.
and maybe choose one place in our marketing? I would love to hear your ideas on website. Everybody has a website, right? Or
Yeah.
everybody should. And if you're listening to this show and you don't, boo, and give me a holler. We'll fix that. But everybody has a website. Most
Yeah.
everybody that's listening to here. How can you give us a couple of tips to part with that they could use this week to start that storytelling journey?
Yeah. So I'll share with you a framework that we use when we help our clients with their website, their about us on LinkedIn
Mhm.
or whatever it may be. And part of this is that you're not necessarily going to present a long narrative, once upon a time, before and after kind of thing,
Got
um,
it.
on your website itself. And go back to that concept that if you think about 3 E's, you evoke the before based on empathize, the after based on envisioning, and the enable. That's the story in a subject line. How a stressed out owner let go and got away uh, is in and of itself, a story. The storytelling people, a lot of the storytelling coaches out there, overcomplicate this. They overcomplicate it like crazy. They liken storytelling to writing a screenplay, and people talk about their 10-step storytelling process and so on and so forth. It doesn't have to be so friggin' complicated. So with the website, what we recommend what we call the wheel framework. The wheel, WHEEL. W stands for why. Start with why they need to pay attention to you. And the answer to that question, why they need to pay attention to you, is that empathy and vision journey, that before to after journey. So, somewhere at the top of your website, if you're this executive coach, you're going to have copy that evokes that journey from go from stressed out to relief, go from feeling stuck to feeling unstuck. Now, would it be exactly stressed out, get away? Maybe. I mean, it could, but evoke the journey. I mean, she talks now about helping business owners get off the hamster wheel, how to get from the hamster wheel to the easy chair. That's a story. That's you're evoking a story. That's why they're buying. They're not buying because they woke up in the morning and said, "Gosh, I sure wish I could delegate better," or "Gosh, I really want to learn how to time block." Those are means to the end that she teaches. So start with why, then how. How do I deliver on that promise? Well, I deliver on that promise by teaching you how to do things like delegate. I do it by coaching, I do it by group coaching, I do it by one-on-one, blah 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 blah, whatever. Third, E, provide evidence. What makes you different? What makes you better? What's your unique selling proposition? Okay. Or excuse me, that's 30 is edge. What's your edge? What makes you better? What's your unique selling proposition? Fourth E, evidence, proof, testimonials, your badges, your awards, your books, your podcast presentations, the logos of all your clients. And finally, the third L, lighten, the load. Lighten the load. What does that mean? Could mean a guarantee. It could mean a try before you buy. It could be a no annual contract. So WHEEL. The story starts, the why, how you deliver, evidence that you're going to deliver on the promise. What's your edge, and lighten the load.
You heard Tom. Don't overcomplicate your story and look at Tom's wheel approach. Believe me when I say getting clarification on your story and translating it to your website is a huge game changer. If nothing else, check out Tom's links in the show notes and see how you can take your story to the next level. Remember to like and subscribe to the show, and until next time, stay buzzworthy.